Feeling disrespected by your children. Here's how to turn things around. As parents, we dedicate much of our lives to raising, loving, and supporting our children. We invest years of hard work, sacrifice, and endless care to ensure they grow up happy, healthy, and successful. But as time passes, something begins to shift. You may notice that your grown children are no longer listening to your advice. They might dismiss your opinions, or even make you feel like a burden. It's a painful realization that can leave you feeling unappreciated, frustrated, and even angry. If you're experiencing this right now, feeling disrespected or ignored by your children, know that you're not alone. Many parents, especially as they grow older, face this change in their relationships with their children. It's heartbreaking when years of nurturing seem to be forgotten or taken for granted. But here's the good news. It doesn't have to stay this way. You don't have to resort to arguments, yelling, or fighting to get the respect you deserve. In fact, those approaches often only make matters worse. The key to regaining respect lies in making thoughtful, intentional shifts in how you interact with your children, shifts that center around setting boundaries, demonstrating self-worth, and reconnecting with your own needs. In today's video, I'm going to walk you through 5 simple, yet powerful steps designed to help you reclaim the respect of your grown children. These changes aren't dramatic overhauls. They're meaningful adjustments in the way you set boundaries, communicate, and care for yourself. By the end of this video, you'll have a clear roadmap for rebuilding the mutual respect and understanding that has always been part of a loving family. So, if you're tired of feeling overlooked or unappreciated, and if you're ready to take control of your happiness and restore the respect that you deserve, stay tuned. Follow these steps, and you'll not only improve your relationship with your children, you'll also rediscover your own confidence and peace of mind. Let's get started on these powerful changes right now. Step 1. Stop chasing their approval. As parents, it's only natural that we want our children to love us, respect us, and value our opinions. After all, we've spent our entire lives guiding them, making sacrifices, and putting their needs before our own. But one of the most common mistakes we make, especially as we get older, is trying hard to please our children. We start to bend over backward, saying yes when we really want to say no, or going out of our way to accommodate them, hoping they'll recognize all the love and care we've given. But here's the hard truth. The more you chase their approval, the less respect you'll earn. This might sound counterintuitive, but it's important to understand that respect isn't earned through self-sacrifice, it's earned through self-respect. When we keep putting their needs above our own, what we're actually doing is teaching them that our feelings, our time, and our dignity don't matter as much as theirs. Let me give you an example. I once knew a woman named Margaret. She was a strong, independent woman in her younger years, but as she grew older, she began to give up her voice. She let her children make all the decisions. She rearranged her schedule around their needs, always said yes when they asked for help, and kept quiet when they spoke disrespectfully to her. She thought she was keeping the peace, but in reality, she was losing her place in the family. Her children started to see her as someone who would always agree, always adjust, and always put them first. They stopped valuing her, and eventually, they took her for granted. If this resonates with you, I want to share some tough love. It's time to stop chasing their approval. Instead, focus on your own self-respect. Set boundaries, say no when you need to, and speak up when something isn't right. The moment you stop chasing their approval, you'll start showing them that you value yourself, and that's when their respect for you will begin to grow again. Remember, your children need to see that you are a person with your own opinions, feelings, and needs. You don't have to apologize for wanting respect. In fact, the more you respect yourself, the more likely they will learn to do the same. Step 2. Don't argue. Lead by example. It's frustrating when your children dismiss your opinions, talk over you, or treat you with disrespect, your first instinct might be to argue with them, to remind them of all the things you've done for them, or to demand that they listen. But here's a key truth that can save you a lot of heartache. Arguing rarely works. Think about it. When was the last time you convinced someone to respect you by getting into a heated argument with them? It's not through words that respect is earned, but through presence. It's about how you carry yourself, how you respond to challenges, and how you show your own dignity in the face of disrespect. When you argue or raise your voice, all it does is reinforce the idea that they have power over you. They see you as someone who's vulnerable to their words, and that's not a place you want to be. Let me tell you about a man named John. John was a retired teacher, someone who had spent his entire life leading with confidence and authority. But when his children grew older, they started dismissing his advice and ignoring his opinions. They would laugh when he tried to correct them, and at first, John tried to argue with them. He'd bring up everything he had done for them, hoping that would get them to see things his way. But the more he fought, the worse it got. One day, John decided to change his approach. Instead of arguing, he started listening to his children more intently. He didn't respond with anger or frustration. Instead, he spoke calmly and with wisdom. He stopped trying to win their respect with words and started showing them what respect looked like by the way he carried himself. Slowly but surely, his children began to see him differently. They saw a man who wasn't desperate for their approval, but someone who had earned their respect through quiet strength and dignity. If your children don't respect you, don't try to argue to force it. Instead, lead by example. When they test your patience or speak disrespectfully, respond with calmness and grace. Don't let their behavior dictate your emotions. Show them what respect looks like in the way you treat yourself. Over time, they'll begin to see that disrespect gets them nowhere, while respectful communication is the only way to truly engage with you. Step 3. Withdraw your emotional dependence. As parents, it's only natural that we want to stay involved in our children's lives. We worry about their happiness, success, and well-being. But as they become adults, it's important to recognize that they are no longer responsible for our emotional fulfillment. If you rely too heavily on your children for emotional support, you may unintentionally create a burden on them, which can lead to less respect, not more. Think about this. When you put all your emotional energy into your children, making their happiness and success the sole focus of your life, it can leave them feeling overwhelmed and suffocated. It can create a dynamic where they start to see you less as a strong, independent figure and more as someone who is dependent on them for emotional well-being. This can easily lead to feelings of resentment or frustration on both sides. Let me share a story about a woman named Phyllis. Phyllis had dedicated her entire life to her children. She was always there for them, making sure their needs were met, and constantly worrying about their happiness. But when they grew up and moved out, Phyllis felt lost. She found herself waiting for their calls, measuring her happiness by how often they visited, and relying on them for emotional reassurance. Over time, her children started to pull away. They felt burdened by the pressure of being responsible for her emotional state. Phyllis realized she needed to make a change. She started focusing more on herself. She reconnected with old friends, took up new hobbies, and even volunteered in her community. Slowly, Phyllis began to rebuild her own life outside of her children, and in doing so, she regained a sense of purpose and fulfillment. Something remarkable happened. Her children began to see her differently. They saw her as a woman with her own life, passions, and interests, and that made them respect her even more. If you feel like your emotional well-being is tied closely to your children, it's time to make a change. Start focusing on your own life. Pursue hobbies, nurture friendships, and build a sense of fulfillment that doesn't depend on your children. The more self-sufficient you become, the more respect you'll earn from them, not out of obligation, but because thou genuinely admire the independent life you're living. Step 4. Set boundaries and enforce them. One of the key challenges that many of us face as we grow older is feeling taken for granted. When our children consistently speak to us in a manner that disregards our feelings or interrupts our attempts to share our wisdom, it's a sign that certain boundaries have been crossed. Setting clear boundaries ain't about creating conflict, it's about clearly communicating what behavior is acceptable and what isn't. When you consistently allow your children to overstep these boundaries, you teach them that disrespect is acceptable. On the other hand, when you calmly set and enforce boundaries, you send a powerful message. You value yourself and your feelings. Let me share an example. Consider the story of Robert, a retired businessman known for his discipline and strong leadership. At home, however, Robert struggled with how his grown children behaved. They would often interrupt him, dismiss his opinions, and even criticize his lifestyle. At first, Robert thought that keeping the peace was the best option, but he quickly noticed that his silence was interpreted as permission for further disrespect. One day, Robert made a conscious decision to establish some ground rules. When his son interrupted him, he politely said, "Please let me finish. I want to share something important with you." When his daughter dismissed his views, he firmly stated, "I understand you have your own opinions, but I expect us to talk respectfully." Initially, his children were surprised by this shift in behavior, but as they adjusted, they began to understand that these boundaries were not about controlling their actions, they were about protecting his well-being and dignity. By setting firm boundaries and sticking to them, you begin to change the tone of your interactions. Your children will eventually learn that disrespectful behavior is not acceptable, and as a result, they'll show you the respect you deserve. Remember, setting boundaries might be challenging at first, but it's a crucial step in reclaiming your self-worth. It's not just about saying no to others. It's about saying yes to yourself and to the life you want to live, one where respect is mutual and valued. Step 5. Stop giving without appreciation. Many of us have a natural desire to care for our children, offering our time, energy, and resources without expecting anything in return. However, when this generosity goes unrecognized or is taken for granted, it can lead to hurt and diminish respect. Constantly giving without seeing appreciation may send the unintended message that your care is an open-ended guarantee rather than a valuable gift. When you keep offering help and support even without gratitude, your children might start to view your contributions as expected rather than meaningful. Think of it like watering a plant every day without noticing the soil's need for a break. The plant eventually stops showing signs of healthy growth because it isn't being nurtured in the right way. Similarly, when your kindness is met with entitlement, it undermines the genuine connection and respect you once enjoyed. Consider the experience of a gentleman named George, a devoted father who had always been generous with his time and resources. He was quick to lend a hand, provide advice, and help financially whenever needed. Over time, however, his children began to take his generosity for granted. Instead of showing appreciation, they started demanding more, treating his continuous help as something they were owed rather than something given with love. Realizing this, George made a crucial change in his approach. He began to set limits on how and when he offered his help. Instead of automatically saying yes, he learned to say no when he felt his generosity was being misinterpreted. Slowly, his children began to understand that his kindness was a special gift meant to be cherished, not a resource to be exploited. They grew to appreciate him more, seeing his boundaries as a sign of self-respect and wisdom. For your own journey, stop giving without an appropriate level of appreciation. Evaluate where you might be overextending yourself and consider setting limits. Allow your children to recognize the value of what you offer by not making it an automatic expectation. In doing so, you encourage them to be more grateful and to approach you with the respect and consideration you truly deserve. Now that you've learned these 5 powerful steps, it's time to put them into practice and start making real changes in your relationship with your grown children. Regaining respect isn't about fighting, raising your voice, or demanding things to be different. It's about setting healthy boundaries, leading by example, and prioritizing your own self-respect. These small shifts in your actions and mindset can help restore the respect you deserve without causing tension or frustration. As you start incorporating these steps into your life, you'll notice not only improvements in how your children interact with you, but also a renewed sense of confidence and peace of mind for yourself. Remember, it's never too late to make these changes and rebuild stronger, more respectful relationships. The effort you put into creating a positive and balanced dynamic will pay off in the long run. I'd love to hear from you. Please share your thoughts, experiences, or any questions you may have in the comments below. Your input is so valuable and can help others who may be going through similar challenges. If you found this video helpful, please take a moment to like it and don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more advice, tips, and inspiration on living a fulfilling, respected life after 60. Thank you for watching. I truly hope these steps will help you regain the respect and understanding you deserve. Here's to building a brighter, more respectful future, not just with your children, but for yourself as well.